from WKRG Plus, your local election headquarters. This is Politics with Pete.
Hello, everyone. I'm Peter Albrecht, along with Mobile Mayor, at least for the time being, Sandy Stimpson, as we're going to spend the next hour, Sandy, reflecting back on your 12 years in office. Boy, that's hard to believe. 12 years, has it gone by in a flash?
Not quite a flash, but yes, and parts of it have, but then sometimes it seems like it's 20 years, you know,
Yeah.
but it's been interesting.
What have your emotions been like? We're recording this 7 days out from your official transfer of power over to Spiro Cheragatis. What have the emotions been?
So you and I count differently. Actually, 5 days till Friday. I'm not going to work the weekend, so Jim Barber's got to deal with things Saturday and Sunday before Spiro's sworn in. So, you know, it's a range of emotions. I mean, it's bittersweet. It's so gratifying to be able to participate in the things that I've participated in. There's a lot of things that I think that mayors generally enjoy, and there are some things that they don't, but it just comes with the job responsibility. But I leave feeling very good about what's been accomplished, and this morning I had an opportunity to talk to the executive directors, and I told them, I said, you know, I've been very fortunate. A lot of people saying very nice things about the administration. And I said, any of these awards and any of these accolades, it's really because of you and the 30 people behind them, and then the 80 that's behind them. So it's a team effort, but it's been very gratifying.
When you made the decision to run 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when you made the decision, why did you do it, and did you accomplish what you wanted to get done?
So the reason I wanted to do it, I mean, Mobile's my home, grown up here all my life, and I really felt like it was going in the wrong direction, and that it could be done better. And it was encouragement from multiple people and situations that said, you know, when are you running for office? And I've told that story before, but you know, ultimately it caused Gene and I to have a serious conversation about running, and so going through kind of a decision tree, you know, I didn't feel like I was qualified really to run for governor. I didn't want to run for be a federal official, a representative or a senator. Anyway, so the closest thing to a CEO position is mayor. And this was my home, and felt like that as a CEO that you could make a difference. And I found out that mayors can make a difference, as long as they can get 5 votes on the city council.
There you go. Yeah. That's true. What's maybe the one thing about being a mayor that people don't realize? I mean, maybe some people think it's all, you know, ribbon cuttings and Kiwanis Club speeches.
Well, you know, it could be for some mayors, and that's not how we approached it, though. And it's just the volume of information that's coming to you. I have to laugh about and think about where Mayor Spiro is going to be. He's a new mayor, and there are a lot of people out there that over the last several years that we've just, after assessing their request, we've decided that there wasn't something to do, so we've said no. So all these people have been waiting in the wings. They see the new mayor coming in, and so they're getting ready to inundate him with seeing if they can get him to say yes.
Sure.
But it's just a tremendous amount of information that you have to process, and then if you, and multitasking is really an understatement to be able to say it, but that's why you've got to have really qualified people like Jim Barber, Ricardo, Shonda Shale. I mean, you've got to have people that understand, and understand not only what the direction the city is going to go in, but also how to make it happen. And so it's that processing that, but in doing that, you've got to also be able to prioritize, you know, because you can spend so much time doing things that don't count. Mm-hmm. So it's a learning experience. I don't think that you can step into that position and be really fully qualified. It's a lot of on-the-job training.
Yeah, you mentioned the city council being the ones who make the decisions ultimately. Yeah. What have those relationships been like for you over the years? Some people have been there for all 3 terms with you, and others have changed in and out.
So, you know, it's the personalities, it's the individuals, and whoever you are or whatever you are, you bring that to the city council as a city councilor. And some people's nature is to be a team player and to be collaborative. Some don't look at it that way. And so there were some real challenges early on. I didn't really understand, I think, the division of responsibility between the mayor and the city council. And it finally came to a head at one point. But I believe that the city council as it exists today really understands their lane, and my encouragement to them is to stay in it, and the mayor to stay in his lane. But there's got to be that collaboration. I mean, it just has got to be. And over the last 12 years, the person that's been really helpful to the administration and that has been Jim Barber. Jim has been a terrific conduit in talking with the city council and trying to get them to understand maybe a perspective on a specific issue that they did not understand. And on the city council, Joel Daves, from our perspective, has been a stalwart. And CJ has just grown exponentially in the job as the city council president. So right now, in leaving, we've had the best relationships in the last 3 years or so that we've had in the entire time that I've been there.
Yeah, and Joel Daves will be going out with you here
right.
next week.
Yeah.
If you had to list your major accomplishments, Sandy, what would they be?
Well, Peter, when I was elected, everybody talked about the city of perpetual potential. And to some people that had maybe a different meaning, but it was basically we never could quite get there. And I don't hear people talking about that now. I mean, the image of Mobile has changed, and it's not just because of let's say me, it's because of what's been accomplished, but it's been because Airbus came and people said, why did Airbus come to Mobile? Well, what's happened is that we've created a business-friendly attitude or an environment where businesses are willing to and want to come to Mobile now. And that's changed the image. So that to me is probably one of the long-term things that will positively impact the city. The second is that we've teed it up from an economic development standpoint where I don't think that we can predict what's going to happen, and it will be because of building submarine components. It will be because of the third FAL opening. I mean, and it'll be because of the logistics and the port, the deepening and widening, the channel. I mean, the warehouse storage that we need. So the two most important things, I think, are changing the image and then teeing it up for economic success. But to do that, there's a lot of other things, like the annexation was huge. Right. And some people, especially after this election, they make comments about, did that help in the election? Well, we didn't do it because of the election. We did it for the same reason Mayor Jones did it, is that you go in and you annex some economic corridors and you bring in citizens with it. But the main thing is you're trying to make sure that the funding stream of taxes is going to be better, in the future after you've left the city. So we have benefited from what Mayor Jones did, and Mayor Spiro will benefit from the annexation that we've done. So that's a big deal for the economic stability of the city. But the other thing is that initially, just getting the finances in order.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
We're leaving the city in great financial shape. Probably, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how far back we can really look, but certainly in recent history, we're leaving it in better shape than it's ever been in, with the amount of money that's in the general fund surplus, the rainy day fund that can only be tapped for certain reasons. So we're in a really, really good spot right now.
How were you able to do that?
Well, I have to say, first off, you have to get your hands around and understand what it is that you're dealing with. And a lot of times, I don't care if it's in the corporate world or in the political world, the information that you have at your fingertips may not tell the whole story. But we were very fortunate, and when Paul Wesch, and I asked Paul to be the finance director, he had been on a citizens oversight committee appointed by the city council, so he had some insight into city finances. And so he already had, I say, his antenna up, and he was concerned about what was going on. When he got in and could really peel it back, I'd been in office like 6 weeks, and he walked in and said, "Man, we got a major problem. We will have a operating deficit if we don't, redo the budget." And so
that's just what you want to hear 6 weeks
yeah, I
in,
mean,
huh?
and I had to go on. I think I've been on TV, or at least I sent out a letter to all the city employees right before New Year's and said the raise had been promised to y'all during the campaign. It was not going to happen. Well, that's not how you endear yourself to 2,000 of your new best friends.
Right.
But we didn't lay anybody off. But what we did was that we put a hiring freeze in, and we made everybody redo their budgets, and that was a real process because many of them had never done a budget. So we called in financial advisors that were employed by different businesses in the city, on CPAs. They came in and worked with us. Anyway, so at the end of that year, after recasting the budget, we had a $4 million surplus. But I really have to attribute that really to Paul West. He was the architect of it. I made a comment earlier this week that he earned the nickname Dr. No, because you'd go in and just see Dr. No, and the answer was, they want to do this, and the answer was no. And so we just quit spending money on things that we did not need to spend money on. And then sometimes that's not so easy
right.
In the public arena. But Paul really gets the credit for that. And then we had a lot of the supervisors that, down at the grassroots level, they had to start watching what they were doing. But we just developed that discipline of this is how we're going to do it. And then we started looking at, we need to refinance all of our debt. And so we started doing that. And anyway, we just made a lot of changes. And that's good because it got us to where we are today. But the challenge for going forward is complacency. I mean, everybody thinks now the city's flush with money, they can do all these things. And we can do a lot of things, but there are so many unfunded liabilities on fixing infrastructure and things that we need to do that you need to kind of save that money for, because you can't go do it all at one time. I mean, I could save that $60 million in surplus. We could figure out how to spend it in about a month.
You can pave,
but the problem is
fully into paving
but the problem
out.
is, though, Peter, you've got just so many people that can pave and so many people that can do this, and so you put all this work out there, you don't have enough people to do it, so the price goes up. So you've got to measure. You got to be measured in how you approach all these projects that are good projects that citizens want us to do.
Yeah, and some monies that we've had before, federal monies, COVID funds, going back to the oil spill, a lot of them is drying up, so that I'm assuming will present a challenge.
Yeah, huge. The city of Mobile has been a huge beneficiary of just what you've said, but also just grants from Governor Ivey. I mean, $31 million or so to buy the property. It was Brooklyn by the Bay that was owned by South Alabama. I mean, Go Mesa funding that we get part of for certain projects. The ARPA money. I mean, it's just, we've been very fortunate to have had access to a lot of funds. Another one is the, not the COVID money, the, what's the no, I'm trying to think of the drug money, and it's.
Oh, is that Tiger grants?
No.
Okay.
It's just it was just $2 million that we just got. It'll come to me in a minute.
Okay. Well, let's talk about.
That's probably why I don't need to be the mayor. I have these senior moments, Peter.
All right. A lot of people talk about getting the finances in order as being one of your major accomplishments. I also hear a lot of talk about the state of our parks when it comes to livability, and you look like at the skateboard park, and we have basketball courts we didn't have before. Yeah. Are you proud of what's happened there in the last decade? Yeah,
absolutely, and really, all the citizens, I hope they recognize what's happened, and a lot of that is because of the penny sales tax, the CIP program, where the city councilors within their city council districts, they help the administration prioritize things they would like to see done. And so you're doing asphalt, and you're doing sidewalks, you're doing some drainage, and then parks was a big deal. And the impact of having nice parks is huge, because people can pretty much live anywhere now, and they want things to do, and we have a lot of parks that are easily accessible. So for those to be in excellent shape is a quality of life issue that has helped us transform the city from my perspective, past this city of perpetual potential. So really grateful for all that the city council has done on that. But a lot of that's come about of how we're doing the parks through our engineering department and through Parks and Rec, going to places, seeing where they're really nice parks, and how to get it designed, how to get it done.
Yeah, a lot of them look really good, and have had a lot of some artificial turf at some fields, and a lot of them.
But as I look over your shoulder, look at Mardi Gras Park, that was one that we got in right under the wire.
Right.
When we got that done.
And so, that open space downtown's been a big advantage, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you came in, Sandy, your slogan was to make Mobile, I think it was the safest and most business and family friendly city by 2020. Okay, and a lot of people say, well, we're not safe. We still have a lot of crime. Do you regret that slogan, or what kind of progress have we made?
So, I don't regret the slogan, but had I known what I know today, I would have, and we did change it after 8 years. We said a safer, more business and family-friendly city instead of the safest by 2020. And really, it takes a long time to make all of those things happen. But crime is down. The Part 1 crime, which is murder, like 6 categories: murder, robbery, rape, burglary, aggravated assault. Some of them is down 61% since 2013. And the numbers, I mean, that's 61% sounds like a lot, and it is, but you had 5,700 Part 1 crimes, let's say this year, versus about 2 decades ago, 20,000. And so the crime coming down has been a collaborative effort. A lot of things have led in that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I wouldn't have set a deadline, for 2020. But I don't regret having done that, because that did bring focus, and that was part of the vision. And so when you cast a vision like that, then everybody starts, doing things to work toward that. And I'm 100% convinced that we're more business friendly and more family friendly. Hard maybe measure that on some terms, but I'm convinced that we are.
Well, and I think too, if you talk to people from similar cities to us, Jackson or Montgomery or Baton Rouge, they all say crime is rampant, right? But it's not necessarily the case. Why do you think this perception thing is the way it is? It dominated the mayor's race, crime did this last time.
For the last 12 years, and I don't think it's just Mobile, the media, they focus on crime, and specifically the murder, robbery, rape, the Part 1 crimes, especially shootings. And so there is this perception that's maybe blown out past what reality of what it is. And so, but it's always number one issue is crime, pretty much in every city. And that's just how it is, because they want to be safe. They don't want to, they want to actually be safe, or feel like they can walk out of their door and not worried about some drive-by shooting. And it's a challenge. This is the biggest challenge we have. That's where the biggest part of our budget is spent. And not digress, but just talk about it in a little bit different terms. So many people think that it's just policing, that policing will make the community safer. I'm going to add another 100 policemen to the streets. Well, I would disagree with that. Right now, we're very fortunate to have almost a full complement of policemen, but the judiciary system has got to work. You've got to have a well-funded district attorney's office with the prosecutors, and ours has been woefully underfunded. You've got to have judges who are willing to carry a heavy caseload, and to get it done, because you can only hold so many people in the jail, and then what's going to happen? They're letting them out, and the majority of the people that they're letting out are going to be the ones that are going to recommit crimes. And so that's why we've invested in when the judges were underfunded and we're going to have to lay off staff, the city stepped up along with the county to give them money. And that's the same thing we've done with the district attorney's office. We could hire, let's say we gave them $500,000 a year, or directed $500,000 to the district attorney's office. We could have hired 6 or 7 policemen, but we thought we're just going to be arresting people, and it's not going to reduce crime. Let's give the district attorney the money, and they have reduced the backlog from COVID. They've done a terrific job with the money that we've directed it to them.
And in terms of image, when we have these big public shootings, that must have been, it's a gut punch to everybody when you have the Sanger incident or the Moon Pie or Ladd Stadium. It's just got to be awful from a policing standpoint. And how do you prevent people from, feeling free to shoot in public?
There's no fix for stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are people that just do things that don't have no regard for human life, and they really, it's questionable whether they ought to be walking the streets. Yeah. I know we can't lock everybody up, but they've got to understand their consequences for their actions. And once they realize that, then maybe we will continue to do things that will prevent that from happening. But the biggest thing and the best thing we can do is to continue to grow jobs and continue to work with the school system and the community college from a workforce development standpoint, and take a lot of these young people who would have a propensity to maybe follow crime, get them a job where they realize that they don't have to do that there is an alternative. So many of them, I think, don't see that there's an alternative.
As we talk about crime and policing, maybe the biggest controversy you had during your 12 years was Chief Paul Prine and his dismissal. Do you wish you had handled that any differently? Could you, as mayor, get 5 votes on the council and kind of out he goes without any sort of Kenyon Brown study or anything like that?
So, there's still some litigation going on with that, so I'd rather not comment.
I understand. All right, well, that's a good time to take a break. We'll take a short one. We'll be back with more with Mayor Sandy Stimpson right after this. Back with Mayor Sandy Stimpson here and WKRG. Thanks for being with us here, Sandy, as we talk about your 12 years in office as mayor coming to an end, coming up on November 3rd as we tape this a few days ahead of that. We were talking a little bit about annexation. You mentioned that a little bit. And when you go back to that situation, it took 2 cracks at it to get it done. Would you have approached it differently? Do you think you underestimated the racial fallback on that, or how would you describe it?
So if you go back and replay the very first attempt, that we were trying to get it completed before the 2020 census.
Right. Which ended up being the 2021 census with COVID, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, we were in a hurry. And so we really didn't have time to do, or didn't find the time to do all the grassroots education that you need to do. Because of all the things that I say that we've done, that's probably what I refer to as the heaviest lift, because there are so many people that have to be educated on it. One is the city council has to first agree to what it looks like. I mean, what is it that, who are you trying to annex? What are the corridors? What are the economics of it? So you got to educate them. Then you have to educate the citizens to be annexed. And anyway, a lot of energy, a lot of resources to get that done. So the first time we were letting a timeline drive us, so we didn't touch all the bases. Okay. Second time, we had time. We had learned a lot from the first go, and so we felt like that we executed about as well as we could have. Yeah.
Should any neighborhood currently outside the city of Mobile, despite its racial makeup, white, black, whatever, be able to come into the city? Do you think at any time, or do we need to be more measured now, or what do we do?
Well, you've got to be thoughtful about just taking in neighborhoods, and let's just say if you take in a neighborhood of 1,000 people, just arbitrarily, but you take in no commercial corridor, so you're going to pay for the services that you're delivering to those 1,000 people out of existing finances. So if you take in 1,000 people, you really need to determine how do you take in a commercial corridor that will pay the services for them, but also maybe even pay for a little more than that 1,000. So that's where it takes a lot of effort and analysis to determine that. We actually ended up in the last annexation, the one that was successful, we hired a financial group, PFM, to come in and check all of our work and make sure that what we were saying was correct. The city council wanted third-party validation, and we got that, and it said that what we were saying was right. And then as we look back at what's happened and what we predicted, I said we're right on the money for what we thought it would be as far as the revenue stream that would be coming from there.
And you think it worked out fairly in terms of how the city council districts were set up after that in terms of representation and that kind of thing?
So I would say yes. I mean, that you have to balance the thing that's most concerned to most people is what is the racial balance within those districts. And we drew some lines. We had to tweak them a little bit in order to get the concurrence from the city council. But at the end of the day, it was approved by by everybody, by the 7 city councilors.
What's the racial tone of the city? Do you compare to other? We have your group of 10 mayors that you deal with a lot. How are we doing on that front in terms of being a harmonious city?
Well, I'm biased. I think that we're doing pretty good when I compare to some of the other major metropolitan areas. I think that the fairest comparison is only Birmingham, Montgomery, and Mobile when you look at the racial makeup of those cities, and they're even different than we are. But I would think that from a race relations standpoint that we're in a good spot right now.
Good.
Yeah.
How do we keep losing people to Baldwin County? That's still happening. We annexed and grew, but we're going to be shrinking shortly, I'm sure, due to flight to Baldwin County.
So it's not, the reason you're losing some to Baldwin County is the perception of the quality of life is better, but also they have new homes and they have single family housing. A lot of people, if they're going to invest in a house, they want to go to a new house, have a new house, not rebuild an older house. Well, we don't have much property where we can just go build the tract house in typical what you see in Baldwin County. And so like some of the projects that we've got on the drawing board, they're really apartment complexes is what they amount to.
Yeah.
But there comes a point in time where people want their own house, and it's gotten to be very expensive, but the way you keep the price down is in Baldwin County you have the big developers, they build 100 houses that, 5 different models, and they can punch them out. It's hard for us to do that in Mobile. So that'll be an ongoing challenge for a very long time. For the next couple of mayors is how do we overcome that?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about some of the big projects going on that you've undertaken during your years. And first let's talk about the Civic Center. When you came in 12 years ago, you came in and said Civic Center basically needs to be shut down. It's a tremendous millions of drain every year on the economy. That didn't happen right away. Why didn't that happen? Because the cost of this thing is probably 3-4 times what it might have been had that happened right away when you got in.
As I reflect back on it, I think that we couldn't come up with a plan that was satisfactory to all the stakeholders. And there are multiple stakeholders. And we couldn't come up with a plan that would give us the flexibility to have like the best concerts, because of all the rigging that it takes. And so because we didn't have a plan that everybody just fell in love with, I think there was always this hesitancy to move forward. And then after COVID, when really we were well down a pathway of trying to come up with a solution, and we had a solution, but once again, it wasn't one that we felt that was the best. Then after COVID, we just said we want to start back over, go back out in the market and see what we can find. And I think what we have today is just what we were looking for. I think we're going to have not only just a state-of-the-art arena, we'll have an arena that has flexibility that other arenas typically don't have. We have a great manager, an OVG, but another thing that I think has been hugely important is that even though it has cost more because we were, let's say, 3 to 5 years later in doing it, meantime, we were paying off our legacy debt.
Yeah, maybe you couldn't afford it in 2014 or 15.
That's right. So we're in, as the timing has played out, we were in the perfect place to pull the trigger, go borrow money, because legacy debt is running out, and you'll be able to take that legacy debt and apply it to the new debt. And as I've told some people, if typically in a development like that, a public facility, you say, well, we're going to increase the sale of Cokes. You're going to do more, and so you're going to generate more taxes. If we don't sell one Coca-Cola more than what we've been selling, we will be able to pay for that, and as the legacy debt, we're just going to roll that payment into the new debt, and for the next 20 years we'll do that, and we won't have to cut any goods and services to anybody. Yeah. So really, I think the timing worked out very good.
And are you excited about the design of the arena?
Oh yes, I think it's that was a lot of input on that from the community, from architects, engineers, and I think there were so many good suggestions that came out of it. I'm very hopeful that the renderings that we see, that it looks like those renderings, because they really look good.
The only vocal opposition that I've really heard is from the dance groups, the people who wanted a theater. Yeah. Do you think how it can be configured for various events will work for them?
I think they're probably not where you're seating 2,000 people. Because you can see a lot more than that. But there are other parts of the complex that you will be able to have smaller dance recitals, or you'll be able to have, practices. And so we will be able to, I'll say, get by until a new theater is built. But I think the ultimate answer is a new theater.
Okay. Yeah. And you're excited about professional sports coming back in the form of a hockey team?
Oh, there are a lot of Mobilians who are really excited about it. It'd be interesting to see what the name is going to be. The Mobile Mystics, I know, is one. I've heard some of the other names that have been submitted, but it'll be real interesting to see what OVG says who the winner is.
Yeah, and in a new building, I mean, a lot of people, naysayers, would say, well, the Mystics failed. Well, that was a generation ago, for one thing, and the new building. You think the new building in and of itself will help?
I think it will, Peter, but I think that more importantly is that the league is just different. I mean, there are more people, there are more teams, there are just more interest. So I think that's going to have as much to do with it as the facility itself.
Now, let's continue to work around downtown and talk about the Army Corps of Engineer buildings. Yeah. City gave away a big chunk of that Civic Center property to put that building in there. And some people say, well, they're just going to drive in from Baldwin County, work there, and go home. What's your defense for that project on that spot, and do you think it will be a good thing for the city?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing we can do about where somebody wants to live other than what we continue to do, trying to make the city safer and improving the quality of life, which will be an ongoing process. I think that, it'd be nice to have anybody's logo on that building because of the visibility. Initially, I'd hoped that would have been Airbus, but the timing just was not right for them. And the Corps of Engineers, we had been looking at several other locations for them, and those were not working out. And we're very fortunate that Senator Shelby was able to allocate some money apart so that the Corps itself could actually do that instead of GSA building it. And so I think it's a very handsome building. The Corps is going to add a couple of hundred employees down there. So combined with the parking deck, we couldn't just wait and just see what's going to happen, because things continue to increase in price. And so it was the best deal we had at the time, and it's going to be a good deal going forward, because on that 23-acre site, Peter, by the time, and if all of this plays out with a hotel, with a theater, with mixed-use facility, and with housing, there could be $1 billion spent on that 23-acre site, and that will generate a lot of revenue for the city. We were losing, $2 to $3 million every year on that same site, and there wasn't any way to plug that hole. I mean, we could have spent $150 million on the old Civic Center, but you wouldn't have had anything. Yeah. So Mobilians should be very optimistic about what's going to happen on that entire site, and what it'll mean for the financial stability of the city, and what it's going to mean for quality of life, giving Mobilians something else to do, whether it's going to hockey games or going to some other sports event if they are going to a concert. Yeah.
Let's keep going down Canal Street. We'll go to the cruise terminal. We had a big announcement last week. Yeah. What's the state of our cruise industry here now compared to 12 years ago, and where might it be in another 12 years?
12 years ago when I was elected, there was no cruise ship. They had left, and so we were able to reestablish the relationship with Carnival. If I could just take my magic wand and go poof, I'd love to have 2 cruise lines in here. Love Carnival, appreciate what they do. So grateful that they're putting a bigger ship in here. But that'd be 2027, and it'll start sailing, 365 days a year, like we hope, because sailing year-round is an economic benefit for the city. But having a little competition here with 2 cruise lines would also be very beneficial to the city. We have ongoing talks with other cruise lines about that. You'll be trying to thread a needle to try to make 2 of them work with that facility. But there are other conversation about, how can you do that? Well, if you had the parking today, I think you could have the 2nd cruise line. And, we don't want to have just multiple parking decks all along the waterfront, because it's taking up a lot of valuable real estate. But it could be that you would add on to that one and be able to handle 2 cruise ships. So we'll see what happens, but that'll be for the next mayor.
And next door is Gulf Quest, which you inherited that situation. Some would say you inherited that problem.
Yeah.
What's the future of that facility?
So it's taken a very, very long time to get a grip on the direction that we need to go there. Karen Poth, the new executive director, brings a wealth of knowledge and experience and vision of what needs to happen there. Everybody's aware of the Jimmy Buffett exhibit and the Delta exhibit that has been funded. They're currently getting ready to kick off about a $5.5 million campaign. I've actually told them that I will help them with that because we've got to make that happen. I mean, to really activate the entire waterfront, the National Maritime Museum needs to be a viable part of that. And we think that Buffett exhibit will be a huge benefit there. So when I'm Citizen Sandy, I've agreed that I'll help them with their campaign on doing that, because I feel real strong that was something that we promised, that we would get done. And if I can be of help, I want to help them do that.
All right, Cooper Riverside Park is undergoing some improvements. Then you make your way up to the convention center. Conventions during COVID and even post-COVID with Zoom and that kind of thing, the whole industry kind of took a little bit of a dive. What's the future of convention business in Mobile?
So to have conventions different than what we have now, or more than what we have now, you really need to have more hotel rooms. Okay, that's a constraint. And also, there was a time when we were that city of perpetual potential, we were having to cut prices, and give better deals for conventions to come here. I would hope that Visit Mobile realize that we really don't need to be cutting cutting prices now to get people to come. I mean, we have a lot to offer now that we did not have back 12 years ago. So on the conventions, I think that's just going to get better, but it will get significantly better as we have more hotel rooms and could either have bigger conventions, or I'm thinking specifically of a couple of hotels, that if you have the quality hotel, it could be like the Riverwalk, then that will turn heads and people say, now we're going to take our convention to Mobile.
Right.
So I think it's very bright.
All right, we've got out in front of the convention center, we've got the beautiful Hall of Fame walk now, beautiful plaza there. And then there's talk of this development that would be on the north side of the convention center. Do you think that's going to happen, and what might that do for the city?
So one of the biggest challenges we have in what I call activating the entire waterfront. By activating, what I mean is getting either visitors or citizens on the waterfront, whether they're going to a concert in Cooper Riverside Park, going to the National Maritime Museum. But anyway, you got to be able to walk. Nobody likes to cross Water Street. So we've allocated almost $1 million to do a design, a study on Water Street. So instead of walking across 6 lanes of traffic, hopefully you can walk across 2. And the way you do that is, if you've been to the exit at Spanish Fort, they have what they call a divergent diamond.
Right.
And it's hard to describe without somebody looking at a drawing. But anyway, it narrows Water Street. And if we can do that, then it's going to help everything on the waterfront. The hotel is very interested in that working. So they are the ones that came up with the concept. So right now they continue to do design work on the hotel. We continue to look at things that the city needs to do, like moving drainage, moving utilities, because it would be a public-private partnership, and we've got to tee it up so that they can have let's say, a place to put a foundation down and build that building. And so there's a lot of work that we have to do. And part of that is how do you handle the CSX? Mm-hmm. And so actually what happens is the tunnel extends northward, and there's a way, the way the hotel is designed so that the train would not stop traffic going to the hotel, because the drop-off point would be up at what is now the third level of the convention center. Beautiful facility, a game changer. It would be condominiums, it would be hotels, it would be upscale shopping. Mm-hmm. So I really hope that they're able to make the return on investment work. So that'll be that'll be a project that we get done.
Yeah, and during your 12 years, more people have moved downtown for the available. Now the problem is the availability of places to live down there, and also talk about St. Louis Street and maybe how that's kind of bridged the gap where you had kind of DeTonti Square floating up there, and you kind of had this 3-4 kind of burned out looking block section in downtown that you don't have much of.
Well, you know, the individuals that were on St. Louis Street were not Mobile's finest. Yeah. Okay, and a lot of policing went on up and down St. Louis Street. And really it was Mike Rogers of Rogers and Willard Contracting that came, and he was wanting to, take the Buick, what we call the Buick building, and we allocated some TIF money for that. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to show what it could look like. So we gave maybe an extraordinary amount based on what had been given for other projects, just to so from a streetscape standpoint where people could visualize this is what this street could look like. And it did that. And so now we're getting ready to completely rebuild all of St. Louis Street. That project is underway as we speak. And you find St. Louis Street has been very robust, now a lot of activity on St. Louis Street. And that really just expanded downtown to the north and just gives us a bigger footprint. And Peter, early on I made a comment, and it wasn't a term that I created, but there's no great city without a great downtown. And to have a great downtown, you've got to have young people, you've got to have people living there. And you've got to have shopping, you can't have a food desert, and people want to walk, be safe, and we've made a lot of strides and kind of capturing St. Louis Street as a part of that. Yeah.
We're talking with Mayor Sandy Stimpson here as he approaches his last week in office after 12 years. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about our new airport and also the bridge that maybe one of these days will get built. We'll be right back. Sandy Stimpson has been mayor of Mobile for the last 12 years. His last day will be the morning of Monday, November 3rd, when Spiro Cheragatas will take over. Sandy, let's talk about the bridge. As mayor of Mobile, you're head of the Mobile Planning Organization, and the bridge has been talked about for decades. And we kind of got a curveball thrown back right before COVID when all of a sudden we found out from ALDOT and the governor's office that we were going to have a $6 toll on this thing, and everybody kind of lost their mind down here, and rightfully so. Take us through that experience, and where are we now? It's 2025, almost 2026, and still we haven't put a lot of pilings in the ground out there.
So Peter, before we do that though, a minute ago I had a senior moment and I couldn't remember where some of the money had come from, and that was opioid money, opioid settlement. So let's get that off.
There you go.
I knew it was out there and it would eventually come back. Okay. So on the bridge, I think that everybody's kind of frustrated with, where are we? But just to replay it for a bit, you made the comment about the thought that there would be a $6 toll. I don't think it was ever reality that there was going to be a $6 toll back then. It was closer to the $2.25 or $2. But once
did that come out of the blue to you like it did to everybody else?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's because ALDOT, this is an ALDOT project. It's not a city project, and so as part of this, the chairman of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO, I was privy to information, but it's not like that you're managing the project. You're being apprised of what's going on with the project. And so we were engaged, and knew it was going to be a public-private partnership. And so anyway, the no-tollers, and the people that thought the federal government should pay for all of it, they were looking for anything to cast doubt on it so that get a groundswell of support to kill the bridge. And they did it. And they did it based on the perception that the toll would be $6. And also the belief that the federal government should pay for all these projects. Well, based on what I've learned over the last several years, there are very few projects that the federal government is paying 100% of them unless there's been some kind of disaster.
Right.
Like if we had a hurricane come in and wipe out the Bayway
right.
and crush
Pensacola
the tunnels.
Bay Bridge or New Orleans.
Right. Yeah, they'll go fix it. But otherwise.
But an 80-20 had been kind of a routine breakdown. Is that gone away?
That is applicable to everything but mega projects. There is no formula, and that's a fault with the transportation or the infrastructure in the United States right now, is that they won't hold fast to that rule, okay? So they don't have a rule, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the reasons some of these things take so long. So where are we today? You know, so you got to know what the price of the bridge is, so you know exactly how much money that you have to allocate to it. So from a contracting standpoint, and the way it's been teed up, and what the ALDOT has been working on, is they need to have a guaranteed maximum price by the contractor. They've got that for the cable stay bridge, okay? Well, when they divided the project up, they had the cable stay bridge and the Bayway. Mm-hmm. Well, the Bayway contractor never did get to a point to give them a guaranteed maximum price, and finally ALDOT got to a point where they had to do something differently. And so in making a change, when you change from the primary contractor who won the bid, you have to go to the second bidder. Fortunately, the second bidder was the first bidder on the cable stay. So now, several months ago, you have one contractor bidding the entire project, but it's taken them a while to get up to speed on what that cost is. So as those preliminary cost numbers come in, you know, they're much, much higher than what I think anybody anticipated. And it's all because of inflation and what's happened in the inflation in the construction world. So, and conversations that are being held is that there's a couple of things that have to happen. One is that you got to find more money, and you've got to find that out of DC, and you also need to cut cost. And so ALDOT is working with the engineers to find out, you know, what are the things that we can cut that make sense, and how do we get more money? And with all that's going on in DC right now, you know, it's challenging for somebody to just say, here's another $500 million, you know, for your project. But those conversations are being had. To the credit of DOT, big DOT, yes, DOT, they recognize that this project is, you know, desperately needed. But they also know it's in competition with projects all over the United States. So we're teed up I would say, in a good place, but we've got to have more information to get that guaranteed maximum price, because then you can determine exactly what is the TIFIA loan that you will have from the feds, from the Federal Highway Administration, and then you determine what the toll's going to be and how long does it take to pay it back. But until you kind of have that final price, it's hard to, I mean, you're making a lot of assumptions. Yeah. And when you're making too many assumptions, it makes folks in the financial world concerned about whether all these numbers are correct. So I know ALDOT has their foot to the gas pedal, and they're going as fast as they can. They're just waiting on more information. Yeah,
when you talk about a lot of the projects we have going on here, though, for example, expanding our shipping, container shipping, also our airport, a lot of the marketing on that's to get people from Baldwin County using it. If you have a bridge that's a choke point, that really impacts those two things, right?
That's exactly right. And the way I say it is that these big projects that we have, like the airport and even the port, without the bridge, they'll never be maximized. I mean, they'll work, and there'll be a return on them, but you won't maximize them until you have the bridge and you can move that traffic on I-10.
Thoughts about the new airport? I drove by it a couple of weeks ago. I think it looks great.
It looks great. Yeah. It really does. So there was a surprise in one of the bid packages. It was actually the last bid package. And when they looked at it and it was way over budget, there was a choice. I think the airport authority could have said, well, we'll just kind of find that money, or we'll go back and start over again on this part of the package. And I applaud them for saying, we're not going to accept that price. And so they went in and made a lot of modifications, trying to cut costs. And so that bid package, I think, is out in the market right now. They'll have that information in a couple of weeks. Based on all the new projections, it should come in on budget. And it'll be a year later from the construction standpoint. But when you're talking, $30, $40 million, it hasn't cost us a whole lot from the benefit of the city, to wait for that to come to fruition, getting new pricing. So real excited about seeing what those numbers look like. And it's going to be really nice. And I think at the end of the day, once it's done, and if we're successful getting additional carriers here, lower the prices, it'll be one of the biggest economic things that happened during this administration.
Yeah, that's the next big step is to get more carriers and increase competition. Of course, we seem to have fewer and fewer airlines as you have a lot of consolidation now, especially with the low price ones. That's going to be a big challenge for the city, the airport authority, no?
Yeah, well, under the leadership of Luckett Robinson, who's the chairman of the, right now of the MAA, he already has circulating a letter among business leaders trying to put together a team. It may be 6, it may be 8, but and he has already identified all the leadership of all the airlines, and we'll start a circuit of calling on all of them to explain why they need to come. It's not we're not going to wait till we build it and see if they come. I mean, he is proactively going to make sure that we use whatever leverage we have. It's like Airbus should be able to help us with some of these airlines and opening doors to get to the right people, the decision makers, to come to Mobile. So that plan is being formulated. Really had a conversation at lunch about that. And so the chamber will be very instrumental in that. And I think that ultimately we will get more carriers here.
Let's talk about Airbus. When you came in 2013, I think they had announced that they were coming around that time, and it was a couple years later that we had the first FAL, and just a couple weeks ago now, number 3.
Yeah.
When you look back on this decade of what's happened out there, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's amazing. What a story to be told for generations about, after they opened the FAL, started, let's say 10 years ago, you never built an airplane, and now, a couple of years from now, you're building 20 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing when you think about there are 1 million parts in an airplane. There's 7,000 in a car, okay? But we'll be building 20 airplanes. But Robin Hayes, the CEO of Airbus, he was interviewed recently on CNBC, and he just made the comment about Mobile and Alabama, but specifically, they would not be making the investment in Mobile if it wasn't for the workforce and the cooperation that they were getting here. And so Airbus feels, I think, real good about their investment. Nobody could have predicted what's going to happen. Nobody at Airbus, nobody in the city. It's just one of those situations that's been, a win-win-win for everybody involved. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day we don't build a tanker.
Well,
I mean, it could
There's
happen.
certainly been problems with that program.
Boeing has not been successful at that. And so another thing, Peter, that nobody has mentioned, I haven't mentioned it, and it didn't come up with the recent cutting of the FAL, but it was the Chamber of Commerce, and really under the leadership of Wynn Hallett and Bay Hayes and some others, they started talking about, we need to try to attract somebody here to do, I don't think they were talking about commercial aircraft, but 95% of the people that heard them talk about trying to get Boeing or somebody here to build aircraft, but we all thought they were crazy, but it can take a crazy idea and it takes 20 maybe years to make it happen. But look what happened, because somebody had a vision. We had a facility that was underused. They saw a way it could be used, and they just kept on and kept on until the story finally made sense. And here we are today.
Really some behind-the-scenes heroes there. Bill Sisson, another one who was involved in it.
But that is an image changer. I mean, to hear Robin Hayes and Darrell Taylor. Darrell the other day, they have probably 120 suppliers were here, and he said, you know, we're at the point now where we're expecting our suppliers to, you know, make an investment closer to facility.
That'll be great.
That's big stuff.
Let's talk. If we talked about Airbus, we got to talk about Austell.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a fascinating story. What's happened there over the last couple of years to keep this big economic engine going here in Mobile.
Another crazy vision. Mike Dow, you know, going to Australia and talk somebody into building ferries here. No clue that you would end up doing what's being done. You know, building the aluminum ships, and then those played out of desperation, I would say. Austell said we've got to do something differently, and they figured that the only way to do something differently, we had to do it with steel.
Yeah.
So they ended up making some conversions so that they could bid on building steel ships, steel hull ships. And I don't think in their wildest dream did they ever think that they would be building submarine components. But because they were successfully building the other ships, they would convert it to steel. And then because of the submarine program being behind, somebody else looked at Austell and said, or the Navy looked at Austell and said, there may be an opportunity there. And so because submarines are probably the most vital part of our defense as a nation, you know, you will see a lot of investment in Mobile coming through the Navy or the Department of Defense because of submarines. And again, I don't think we can predict what it's going to look like in the future, but it's very positive, and it's going to give our workforce an opportunity to really grow. Okay? You know, some of our skilled labor, they get to a certain level, and that's the kind of the top of that food chain. If you start building submarines, they're getting ready to change the skill level. They're going to have more skills, but they're going to also be paid more.
We're getting close on our time here, Sandy. I wanted to ask you about your family, your wife, Jean.
Yeah.
Sacrifices that she's made and your family's made here over the last 12 years. It can't be easy on a family to have somebody in office that requires so much time.
No, it's not. You know, Jean is the most amazing person I know. I mean, she's as kind and sweet on the inside as she is on the outside, and so I can take her somewhere. And if I can walk into a room where everybody's mad at Sandy. If I take Jean with me, it kind of sucks all the oxygen out of the room. So that's why I take her with me a lot. But she's been wonderful. She's a great ambassador for the city. You know, my children have missed me being involved in some of the things they would like to see me, but I think they understand that this was a calling for me, and they've been very supportive. And I'd also say, Peter, that without my siblings, my two brothers, Fred and Richard, and my sister Pam, what all they've done to support from the outside, you know, we couldn't have done it. At least I would not have been as successful. And then there's others past the family that I told the executive directors today, I said, you know, I'm getting all this, I think I may have said this, and all this recognition, but y'all are the ones that deserve this recognition. So anything that I'm accepting right now, it's really because of the team that's been in place. And you've read about it, and I think you maybe heard me say that my ongoing prayer, one of my ongoing prayers, is that God continue to send the people and the resources to the city of Mobile to transform it into the city He wants it to be. And I am 100% convinced that prayers are being answered, and there's so many people praying. And the way I know that is that because of the newsletter. And people will come up to me and thank you so much for the newsletter. I really enjoy reading it, but I only read the last two paragraphs. And I say, well, about 9 out of 10 people tell me that, but we work real hard on all that other information every day. But I think there's a hunger for that spirituality, you know, that part of it, and people see that that's part of who I am, and I say praise be to God for what all we have been accomplished, because I feel like I've just been used, you know, to do what He wants to do. So. Well,
I know it's not easy being in the civic arena. Thank you for your 12 years leading our city.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Been great.
All right. Outgoing, soon-to-be citizen, Sandy Stimpson. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.